Our dear president Bobby is on a bus. Some of you may have been watching a little band get together this weekend in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil, and where Bobby's band was one of the brilliant finalist bands last evening. So he is still on his way back to Charleston with his students. So I'll do the my best to step in for him tonight, and we'll start off with some words from Tim.
Thanks, CC. Did anybody watch it on what do they call it now? Box Five? Did you watch it on Box Five? Yeah. Incredible. Mike Rubino, who won the very first Bands of America event when it was Summer Nationals, he was there. They honored all the people from years past. We were talking, and I said, "Could your winning band have made finals?" He goes, "I don't think so." So that's how much that entire activity has escalated or ascended or morphed or whatever. Yeah, the place was packed. So great parents. All right. Words of wisdom. This is one that I just I throw it around and and I never really address it. And that's positives come and go and negatives accumulate. And then it passes and we go on. So I thought I'd do some research on it, and I checked AI to see who's credited for it, and it was me. I'm like, no, no, no. I ripped it off from somebody. But it's there's two or three names up there given credit for it. But I want you to think about this. And the reason I wanted to work on it just a little bit is because we say it and we all acknowledge it. But why is it that way? Why isn't a positive equal to a negative? And why is it's between 5 to 1 and 8 to 1 that says it takes eight positives to offset or neutralize one negative. So let's put this in our ensemble settings. You got to have eight kids that are on the plus side just to even out the one ornery one. Yeah. And that's why um, we well, all of us, we repeat behavior that we get attention for. Now, we're music teachers. What gets attention? The wrong notes, the wrong rhythms, the wrong expression. Rarely do we stop and go, oh, that blend saxophones was just phenomenal. It just owned me. Thank you so much. Well, that was a bad example, wasn't it? Flutes, that blend was, I'm sorry, I apologize. But you know what I'm saying, right? And and so after a while, the kid that's practicing forever goes, my director doesn't even know my name, but knows all the percussionists' first names and most of the low brass. Why? Because they're back here getting all the attention. So anyway, here's what the research showed us, and I will put this in your letter tomorrow too. The reason negatives get attention is because we're animals and it threatens us. It hits our fight or flight thing. When somebody's negative, it comes into our space and we go, oh my gosh, I'm threatened. Positives, we casually go, hey, thanks, and off it goes. If it threatens, it goes from the hippocampus, the front part of the brain, which picks up information really fast. Can't hold on to it always, but it picks it up fast. That's why you can cram for a test. If it's repeated several times, like our negative self-talk can be, it goes to the cortex, the back of the mind, where habits are developed, and we'll stew on it forever. Now, what does that mean to us as educators? We can't control what anybody else says to us or how they treat us, but we can certainly control how we take care of other people. So sometimes, and there's nobody guiltier of this than Tim Lautzenheiser. I will say something to get a laugh at somebody's expense, thinking they'll know it's a joke, and it's not a joke. You know, the one that always gets me, and it happened a couple times this weekend. Oh, they'll just let anybody in here, right? And everybody laughs, and you're like, oh, yeah, and even the victim laughs. But it's like, Is there another way we could have put that that would have probably been a little kinder? Like, man, it's great you're here. This is so. How do we change it? How do we change it in ourselves? The first thing is we, the minute something goes negative, if you do something of gratitude to somebody, it'll throw the mind off of it almost immediately because your focus is on the give now. The second thing is stop at least for 10 seconds and make sure it's accurate information. Because, I mean, how many times have I said, I'm going to flunk that subject? I don't even know why I'm taking the final. I'm going to flunk it anyways. And you're running a B plus average. But the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between fact and fiction. So it starts to treat us like we're going to flunk the subject and puts our body and our mind and our temperament in that condition. At that point, when we're hit with anything negative, our self-talk has to really be strong. Nobody knows us better than we know ourselves. We're the expert on one thing in this world, and that's who we are. And I've watched so many people crumble under what was not meant or intentional to victimize them, but that's the way it was interpreted. Communication isn't what we say that counts, it's what they get that counts.
Mhm.
So I think that's a good hint for us all in terms of wisdom to be really cautious about our conversations and just stop and go, if that was said to me, how would I feel? Because the minute we say it, a defense goes up on the other person, and now to build trust is almost impossible. And if you're going to build a culture of excellence, we just shot ourselves in the foot on that one. So it's not always pleasurable, not easy, a little tough love in there, but those are my words of wisdom. So thanks, CC, for letting me do that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, Tim. And you in what you just shared with us, you said something about you're just talking about the number of negatives that we're sharing with our students, and I think that that's our all of us tend to, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make something better, so we're going to
Mhm.
identify the errors. And if we want to repeat behaviors, then let's consider giving attention to the positives, right? So I mean, the number of times that I've seen, young adults just beaming when you stop to go, wow, I just have to say euphoniums. That was really something special, and give them something detailed that they can latch on to so that they're repeating that behavior. What I know that my students don't appreciate is when we finish a rep and you just say, good job.
Yeah, that didn't mean anything.
What does that mean? We're just placating them with empty promises, sort of deal. They want to know what was good. In the same respect, they're happy to take reps of things when you can give them that detailed information, and that they see that the information that you're giving them is making them better. They're happy to do that because nobody wants to be mediocre. They do want to get better. So I just carefully choosing how to our students. I think that's kind of all about the culture that we're trying to create, and we're asking everyone to consider creating. David, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just was going to share. I completely, yay, thanks for saying that. I kind of extend it, um, and then asking them, what'd you hear? What would you, whatever, to get their engagement on it. But I just had a different thought as Tim was talking about this. I remember a book that's probably, I think it said it was 2011. I'm going to throw it in the chat. And it's called the Leader Phrase Book. And the reason I like it, and I'll put two samples that Amazon gave me, but sample pages from it to help you see what I'm talking about. But it really intrigued me years ago because it gives you a whole, like, the whole book is basically 100 pages like these that are sampled, and it says, how do you say I disagree? And it gives you down to the negative versus up to the positive, and it gives you a whole list of ways you could say I agree or I disagree. And it kind of sparked my whole thought process of, okay, how can I say there's a whole variety of ways that I can say or accomplish what I want? And it really sparked my own thoughts on just giving me more tools and arsenal, I guess, if you will,
Mhm.
of how to go about doing what Tim talked about, right? How do we phrase it in a positive way? How could I say this better? So anyway, it's like 8.95 or something in paperback. It's not a new book, but something I found interesting that I thought I would share.
Well, thank you both for sharing. Scott, do you want to share your tips for the week with us?
Well, good evening, everybody. So yeah, there are five things that I want to share with you, and it's kind of this idea that all these things synergistically go together. In other words, it takes all of them, but the synergy of all of them together just creates something special. And it's broken down essentially into five categories. And the first one is just knowledge, our pedagogy and what we do. The second one's effective communication to create student-centered classrooms, and it's kind of like what we're talking about. Ask the students to give suggestions on things that we could do. Number three is just systems and processes. And I'm going to ask a question about systems and processes in just a little bit. Number four is musicianship, right? Just musicianship. In other words, we did an assignment, I think last year when we were talking about we're really good at the technique, troubleshooting technique, but what about the beauty and the shape and the nuance, right? And then number five is creating a culture of excellence where we truly invest in young people. So let's go back and look at these just really quickly. The knowledge piece really comes down to how do I say this? If you don't know your craft, it's a possibility that you may be accused of only being a good manager of people, not an artist. So you have to think through that just a little bit because that's part of what we do. It's not all of what we do, it's a part of what we do. Effective communication, Ben Sanders says our job is to awaken possibility in our students. So our ability to communicate, and by the way, that's culturally and pedagogically, context and content, right? And helping them be the best versions of themselves. Systems and processes, my experience has been that students just love systems and processes. And sometimes I don't mean the time when you like rearrange the chairs and have them sit next to each other. I'm just talking about there's certain things that they count on. And if you want to just like blow the whole thing up, just abandon your systems and process. I several times here in the SLAM meetings, we've had people, I think Koji last time, talked about certain systems and processes, and he had students that said, "Wait a minute, hold on, are we not doing that anymore? This is what we do, right? This is how we do things." And then the musicianship piece, just encouraging you to think about, what are some things that we say musically to our students, and do we share those moments, like why we decided to be a music educator, or those moments when a particular musical experience just, totally changed us, right? And then number five is creating a culture of excellence where you truly invest in people. And so, here's some things, that we talk about when we talk about, this piece of the puzzle, like who we are and what we invest in students. They're, creating a safe, accepting environment full of love, where we're encouraging students to be the best versions of themselves. All students, regardless of ability, feel successful and proud to be in the program because it's full of love, especially if you can create that energy where an old upperclassman takes care of a younger student, right? We used to call it taking care of the customers, pair them up, right? And then the program is growing because, parents say, I want my child to belong to that, right? I want them to belong to something where, my child can truly be the best version of themselves. And then just the idea of that, we're in the music business and the people business. So I wanted to just share those five things and I don't think if you pull even one of those out, it's not as cohesive. But if you put all of those together, you're going to create something really, really special. So I have just a kind of quick question. We started in our breakout room a couple of times ago, actually talking about this, and we just scratched the surface, and then we ran out of time. So I want to ask you this question. I hope you'll jump in and answer. what are some systems and processes that you have in place that you would say your students count on? Like they expect that to happen. Anybody want to jump in? Go ahead, Jennifer.
Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Um, one of the things that I was hard for me to let go of was having them come up to run rehearsals and like sections. And I made it like a every Thursday because I didn't want to get my Fridays up, but Thursday, and I would select, but I wouldn't tell them. So they had to be on the ball and know what's happening. And if I would skip a Thursday or I forget for a second, Miss, we're not doing that today because I think we know whose turn it is. So letting them just run sections. First, I did, warm-ups. Then I do breathing exercise, sight read, and them have to use the metronome sometimes and also give feedback to them. And they actually, middle school kids, they can do a lot. And I don't think we give them credit and opportunities. And also setting it up so if they weren't as successful as they hoped to be, the kids know how to respond because they know they're up next. So it's helped them also treat those when I'm out, if there's a substitute, differently.
Yep.
So
That's perfect. That is so perfect. And we've kind of evolved past the where all the information, I mean, there's certain things that our students certainly have to get from us, but we've moved past the idea that all the information has to come from us, and we can kind of just explore together. And exploring together creates some great synergy as well. That's a great, great, great comment. Anybody else? Let's do one more. Any systems and processes that you think your students kind of count on? And by the way, Cecilia, I can't see the whole screen, so if
Oh yeah,
somebody,
Jonah, please, Jonah.
go ahead.
So it was kind of a big affirmation of this week, but I've gotten in the habit and the process of just putting down name tags for my kids in fifth grade bands when they come in, they find their name tag, put it on their stand. I have instructions for them on the board. And I started to get to a point where I was thinking, oh, I think they're going to start thinking this is dumb. Why are we doing this? And like, they've even said a couple of times, like, don't you know our names? And so of course I said their first and last names, like just like that without their name tags. But this week I thought to myself for one class, you know what, I'm just going to try without it and see what happens. Maybe I don't need it at all. And the first thing they do when they came in, they're like, Dr. Zimmerman, where are our name tags? What are we doing today? What's happening? And we had an okay class, but it was a big affirmation to keep doing that process.
Yeah, very cool. That's good. Well, Cecilia, I'll turn it back over to you, but those 5 things, and I'll try to put those in the chat as well.
Well, and I'll take advantage, Scott, of your invitation to share a system because,
Yep.
One of the things that I'm curious to talk about with everyone tonight is, this is year 3 for me at my program, so I still feel there are a lot of things that are still evolving, right? But one system that I have kept that just blew my mind when I first got there. In the middle of December, we're about a month out. We have the first round of our all-state auditions, which is how we also seat students for the district honor bands. And my students already for the past 3 weeks remind me on a nearly daily basis, Ms. Clark, who's going to play for us today? Because it becomes their expectation that in their preparation process that they can volunteer to play a portion of their audition in front of the entire ensemble. And so, Micah will raise his hand and I say to our bassoonist, Micah, what would you like to play today? I'd like to play my first lyrical etude. Okay. And then we put it up on the screen. We all watch and listen. And when Micah's done, he is looking for glows and grows from across the room. What are the things that they really enjoyed about his playing? What do they hope that he continues to develop? Where are some areas where he can, grow even more? And the kids will remind me if I forget. So creating, I just feel like there's a lot of layers there, right? There's trust in their peers so that they want to get that feedback from each other. They've created an environment where they feel safe enough playing rather than feeling judged. they feel supported. So I would encourage you to find ways, David already alluded to, ask the kids, what did you think about that? But that, doing that in an ensemble setting leads to what Jen is talking about with the students being able to run sectionals, right? Because you're starting to develop those really discerning kind of ears so that they're listening critically, but that they're also giving clarity with kindness to each other. I think that that's something that develops in that process. Yeah. What else? Tonight, it's what, we are very, very lucky. We get together and we have the coolest people that we hang out with every time we get together. But sometimes I think that you forget that the coolest people in the room are you, our Slamily, right, Tim? And so open mic night is just a night for us to stop and say, you're famous, you're famous, you're famous, you're famous, you're famous because you're somebody really special for your kids. So let's celebrate. Let's talk about what's going on in your rehearsals, in your classrooms. Does anyone have something they want to share? Brenda, please. And
I'll
Jade,
share.
we'll jump over to you.
Yeah. Hey, Dave. This week, uh, our dean of students said, "Okay, we're going to have a uniform check." And I said, "Why do we have to do," I talked to my students, said, "Why do we have to do a uniform check? I mean, shouldn't your uniform be in tip-top shape?" And they all kind of looked at me like, "Oh, you're kidding. You really think?" I said, "Well, it's just like music. If your music has everything as far as tonality, it should all be in tip-top shape, right?" And they kind of looked at like, "We never thought of it that way." I said, "Well, if you come looking uh, in shape in your uniform, that's everything, the whole bit." I teach a bunch of girls, so you can only imagine. Um, and
Oh no.
because every time we go over our music, shouldn't it be great every time we play our instrument or we sing a song, whatever? I said it should not be halfway and then you got to fix it. So we waste more time straightening up our clothes, then just why not come prepared? And don't you feel good when you have everything tip-top shape on you? Then when you perform, it's going to sound like that with your instrument. So, well, when you sing. So I thought that when the dean said, and then I said, oh boy, this is a good way to bring this topic because we talk about singing and playing in tone, and they still have a hard time adjusting to that. They're working on it, but somehow that doesn't come to the forefront. It's still back there, and we're gradually bringing it to the forefront. But that really hit home when we talked about that. So that's my week.
Thank you so much for sharing. Jaden, what did you want to share?
Hello. Firstly, it's been forever since I have seen all of you. Hello. Quick recap of my life. It is a little difficult for a flower to grow in winter. That is all we're going to put there. But the positive part of that is I get the pleasure of teaching sixth grade at my part-time teaching location, and it is quite literally my reason for breathing. I love my sixth graders so much. And I got the pleasure of teaching them literally the first ever band piece I learned. It's a tradition at the middle school that I'm at because it's my alma mater. That's where my part-time teaching is. So crazy full circle moment there. So getting to learn with them, see their excitement of reading music for the first time rather than stuff out of the green book, literally the habits of the successful middle school musician book, getting to transition them from that to full music just like the first time I did it. I was like, I almost walked off the podium crying. It was great. I got to teach sixth grade the first class. And in the second class, I got to fully run it with them because I did a different method of things. And it was like absolute cinema. I'm doing this for the rest of my life. I will never stop. Oh my God, it was perfect. So that's a really awesome thing that happened to me.
And who do you get to student teach with next semester?
Next semester, I've chosen two spots in Cobb County. I either get Kell High School with Taylor Watts and David Roth or Hillgrove High School with Jeremy Lumpkin. I haven't gotten the confirmation of which of those two or any of those two, frankly. Cobb County is doing a lot of requests right now, but I'm hoping I get either of the two spots. I don't know yet, but I'm excited for those.
You know, Bartow County will be happy to take you.
Somebody's going to be really lucky to get you too.
Absolutely.
For sure. For sure. That sounds great, Jaden. Congrats. Jonah.
Okay. I know I've already talked, so I'll try to keep it brief. But I TLDR, I'm a first year teacher, but we do curricular marching band here in Omaha. So even though I've been a band director since July, really, we just now started transitioning the concert band to get ready for our winter concert. So I feel like I've really only been a band director for about 2 weeks. And the first week, I thought I was really prepared, had all my music picked out, score studied. I was ready to go. But as you know, everyone in here is nodding. It was not like that. And I felt a little bit like I let the kids down based on how everything went and the circumstances. And, we weren't sounding very good. And it was just a really big victory for me to just be walking the halls and just for every student I see to just say, hey, Dr. Z, and all of that, and just see their smiles. And so I took that with me in this past week. And unfortunately, I listened to the recordings of our run-throughs on Friday, and there's still a lot of work to do, but I'm really proud of how far they're coming. And, it's just growing and growing, getting better and better. And just, it's really nice when those kids have your back and you have theirs. And I think that even if that holiday concert isn't quite quite what, maybe I expected it to be from the beginning, it's where we're at. And I'm excited to keep growing throughout the year.
Thank you so much for sharing, Jonah. I'm sure it was not nearly as tragic as you felt that it was. We are, of course, our harshest critics, right, of our own self. I'm sure your students are having a blast learning with you. Thought I saw Amanda. Yeah, Amanda did have her hand up. How are you, Amanda?
It's interesting past month or so. Um, as some of you know, but all of a sudden, the Tuesday of our indoor marching band concert, I found out that the director that's taking over the school band was just not going to be returning effective immediately. And so obviously we're kind of in crisis mode and just trying to kind of get let's survive the concert and then we'll figure it out. And we're kind of in limbo because we weren't exactly sure what was going on. Um, and it really had no prior warning that this was going to happen. Um, and I still haven't heard anything from this individual. Um, so, but some of the kids were really relieved to find out that they were gone. Um, just because uh, she was very rude in how she would speak with them. Um, and so there's a lot of issues with grading, a lot of parent concerns, kid concerns. And so this is the third time in my 19 years teaching that I'm kind of like picking up all the pieces and cleaning out the other office and going, okay, now what the hell do I do? Um, but I've got a good group of kids that are kind of helping me through it. And in the process, like I took a couple of kids that all of a sudden, like their moms are emailing me saying, hey, they loved band and now they're talking about wanting to quit. Like, what's going on? And here is just that vibe that they were getting, unfortunately, from the other teacher. Um, And so with some kind of talking through, okay, well, let's talk about what grading's going to look like now. Um, and I was able to get two of those boys to play in a quartet for Veterans Day for the ceremony, and they all four of the kids who did that felt really, really good about it. And 2 weeks ago we had a good it's the Shell Lake middle school band festival that the Shell Lake Arts Center here in northwestern Wisconsin, and the kids just had a really great positive experience. So I feel like for as stressed and overwhelmed I am, and as I'm still very much in survival mode, I feel like the kids and I are kind of finding our feet. And I've got a lot of kids that are kind of like, okay, you know what? Let's do this. Let's figure out our path, and just really helping each other out. So I'm really I'm really fortunate with that, even though it's been extremely stressful. So, and I'm glad the both kids that I think they felt really positive after doing the quartet, and the tension is gone and some of those things. Cool.
If anyone is built to handle this, it's you, Amanda. Be strong.
You are very, very kind.
We've known each other for a long time, and I know that to be true of you. Julie, how about you? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Hello. So we finished well, Arizona's weird. We have like two or three marching band things going on. We're finally kind of wrapping that up. And I guess this relates back to the processes thing, but we're getting ready now to get obviously Christmas concert, but the hometown Christmas parade is a big deal. And this year I had a lot more beginners in the marching band than we've had before. So I thought I better find some easier parade music, which I did. But then I started getting ready to make copies, and all the kids asked if we were going to play the Parade of Lights, which is the music we've been playing the last 7 years. And I was like, are you sure you want to help all the little baby freshmen learn this hard music? And the kids were like, yes, we have to play it. So we are in the works of trying to get Parade of Lights ready to go for the hometown parade, and the kids are excited, but the littles are pretty nervous, but I think they can do it. So that's what's going on in Arizona.
That's pretty outstanding. How dare you want to change the Christmas parade tune?
Definitely don't be doing that.
Yeah, Tim, you talked about changing your email to us this week. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Um, it's who we are. I mean, we have to come back to the fact that the mind is lazy. It will work when we want it to, but we will put things off till the very last minute. And you're the best. I mean, you represent the best people in the business, and we'll still wait till the very end because we don't want to change. Does anybody in this room have bad habits besides me? I just want to make sure. Yeah. I have one that says I have to eat before I go to bed or I'll starve to death. I'm probably 35 pounds overweight, so there's not any chance I'll starve to death. But the mind can trick us into that. Now, this is really important to take this one home. The mind will always make us right. Even when something happens and we know we stubbed our toe real bad, after a certain amount of time, we've got it turned around to, well, it wasn't really that bad. Well, it was right. And serial killers believe they're right.
Yeah.
And that's why lawyers make a fortune because we can't figure it out on our own. You should speak to that, Scott, as some organizations hemorrhage because they're letting the lawyers fight each other out. So anybody that's successful will know that it's going to require change. Otherwise, we will disappear like the dinosaurs did. And even this weekend, looking at how far that the marching band activity has come, they're not making the school letter anymore and marching off the field playing the fight song, even though some of them probably should have. But I mean, the the uh, the notion of I if I want tomatoes, I have to quit planting corn. But I just keep planting corn, hoping tomatoes will show up. Mm-mm. It's not going to work that way. Logic has to take over. And Steve, I wish you'd jump in and say something about it because you caught me on something here. All of the things we talk about are so important. We're talking about the contextual things, but it still comes back to the pedagogy is the reason we open their minds, create a culture, and develop the trust in the first place. And I know a lot of groups that are incredibly happy and have a good time, and they're horrible when it comes to music. We didn't teach the discipline. We got everything else set up, and then we forgot that part. And then I know groups that are just razor sharp, but they're just as cold as ice. So come on, Andre, jump up here, you Texan.
All right. Well, first thing, there's something that's on my mind, and I'll get to that, Tim. This
Okay.
stems from church this morning. Um, Holidays, we tend to be happy. We think of as happy, joyful times for us and happy, but that's not always the case, right? For some of your kids, not coming to school for a week for Thanksgiving means they may not eat for a week, or means they have to be surrounded by the relatives that don't like them or make fun of them or tease them, or it brings back a memory of loss. This is my first Thanksgiving or my first Christmas without mom or grandma or something like that. So that was kind of on my mind today about, be thinking about those kids that you know of, and just don't assume because we let them go home for a week, next Friday, that everything's going to be, sunshine and roses, because it could be a tough time for them. So keep those kiddos in your thoughts and prayers for sure. Uh, and now we'll get on to something that Tim and I we talk about all the time. It is the content and the context. Being a Texas band director, uh, you have to make the kids sound good. Number one, right? There's a reason every judging sheet you ever go to, tone is the very first thing. The kids have to sound good. Now, how you teach tone is just as important as teaching tone. Okay. Spotlight the positive, keep the class moving, make them all look the same. Okay. You have to be a strong pedagogue, period. There's no way around it. That is your job, right? If your clarinets sound bad and you teach clarinets, guess whose fault it is? You know, you know, I love to play golf, and if the ball goes into the woods, it's my fault. You can't blame anybody. And if you're looking around and why are my trumpets so bad and you teach trumpets, maybe you should do something about that. Okay? You know, if you know you don't have any brass players coming up, you only have one tuba player and they're a senior, what do you do about it? Complaining about it, you've known for years probably you're about to run out of tubas. What are you going to do about it? Okay? Um, Excuses are like armpits, right? Um, anyway, what are you going to do about it? But bottom line is, you have to teach them. You can be John Maxwell, but if you're teaching B flat second valve, it doesn't make any difference, right? You know, it just doesn't matter if you're giving the kids bad information. Now then, as you give that information, make sure you focus on what the kids are doing right. If you keep pushing the kids that are doing well, make examples of those kids that are doing well. And and this is an easy rehearsal technique. You want the kids to all sound the same. Find the kid that sounds the way you want them and make a model for everybody else. And then say, match Brian. Okay, what did Brian do that we're not doing, right? Make them match. And the other thing that's so important, those of you that are teaching beginners, it's important that you teach them it's okay to play in front of other people from the very beginning. You know, we're in a performance art. You have to play. How many times have you heard, well, I can play it when everybody else is playing. No, you can't. You just can't hear yourself. We've all heard that before. You know, you've got to do that. And it starts when if it's okay and you've created the culture where it's okay when a kid plays, they're not going to be crucified or laughed at. When you set up that scenario, because you can't help them unless you hear them play, right? And you've heard this before, but as I go around working with groups in my retirement, some of the keys, the programs that are struggling, is they don't play very well. And in some of those places, false praise is bad. They've told the kids how good they are. You're doing so great. I'm so proud of you. We're going to do great at contest. And then but you've set it up to where we're going, it's about the trophy or the success, the results. And then we finish 30th out of 30 again. Well, what's missing? Well, we don't move our feet in time. We have no sense of our style looks like. The drum line hasn't learned their music yet, and just all those things. And as Tim says, if it's not going well, look in the mirror. Okay. It's a hard, tough, road to hoe, but you're in charge. And if it's not going well, you have to change or you have to change something. But you can't keep doing it the same way. If you've taught clarinet class the same way for 5 years and your clarinets are still awful, hello, okay, you know. And and by the way, Brian's a great clarinet teacher. So if that is your clarinets are bad, talk to Brian. He can help you. But it's just one of those things too, because the last thing you want to have happen is for a kid to get into the car with mom and dad after a concert, and mom and dad looks at them and go, "Why do you do this? What are you getting out of it?" You want it to be a positive experience for the kids from everybody, right? And kids know when they're being successful and sounding good, okay? Because some kids crave success so bad, they'll put up with that tyrant band director even though they don't hate it, at least they're being successful, right? It's not something that they're passionate about. But the true art of putting that all together is when you have the pedagogy and you have the culture. Uh, my friends at Flower Mound High School, if any of you watched the Grand Nats yesterday, they have that mix. They are great people. The kids love coming to band, and they are good. You know, they love each other. And you know what's really cool about this is there's another great program just up the street from them called Hebron High School, who is also pretty amazing. And they love and support each other. You know, they actually tied at the Big Southwest Championships. How convenient was that in San Antonio? And you know what they did? They went and they hugged each other because they built that culture among them. It's not about beating Flower Mound or beating Hebron. They can both be really good and they're pretty amazing. Okay. And so, but you know what those guys do, and a lot of you do this too. They teach their butts off every day. We take no days off. When the bell rings, we teach from bell to bell. Okay. I remember doing fourth band. When I taught at Grapevine for many years, I did the top band, I did the fourth band. And some of those fourth band kids would go, "How come we never get a day off?" I said, "I'd have to work harder on you guys having free time than if we just rehearsed our music. So shut up and get your horn out. We got work to do." And that's just kind of the way it is. And that's just the kind of the way I am. I'm a little old school. Uh, but uh, hopefully, Tim, I answered your question about content and context. And for those of you that are going to Midwest, you're going to get a lot of content. There are some great context ones, one given by some of our slam people. But if you're struggling with content, go someplace to try to figure out a clinic that's going to help you in your weakness. And I think we're never too old, to stop learning. And if you have any questions or need any help on any of that stuff, especially content wise, but also context wise, just reach out and we'd be happy to help you any way we can. I've talked way too much, and that's more than I normally talk on a Sunday night. So I will give the floor away to somebody else, Cece.
We're grateful for that, Steve.
You know
And
what? I'm going to interrupt you, Cece.
yeah,
I'm the oldest person on this screen, and I know less now than when I was 23. if that makes sense. Because the mind opens and says, "You idiot. You think you know it all? Grow up." And boy, in the
Oh. One thing. I encourage all of you to go to the Marching Mizzou Facebook page. Okay. They've uploaded some pictures back when our very own Dr. Tim was running the marching band at Missouri. Have you seen these, Tim?
hair down to here.
Yeah, hair and the whistle. So if you're not following the Marching Mizzou on Facebook, you should. And you go through their media, you'll see somebody we know really well running the show. It's great. It is great. All right, now I'm done.
Brian, will you jump in, please?
Well, Steve just hit a home run there, and I just wanted to follow up with two little things. I don't know, referring to the Hebron and Flower Mound relationship there is awesome, and it just reminded me of the comment that Joel, or the post that Joel Denton made this week about competition, and that flowers don't compete with each other. They just
Right.
bloom.
They
They just
bloom.
grow up and bloom, and they don't worry about anything else. And just be a flower. I just thought that was brilliant. I'd never heard that before. And so I wanted to share it with you in case you had not seen it. And then the other thing that kind of went along with what Steve was saying, is some advice. And David, this would be my leadership tip. Um, Ask more questions than you give directions. Of course, we all have to give directions at some point, but as much as possible, ask the kids what they think. Even the sixth grade beginner clarinet class can tell the difference between tone qualities. Well, which one do you like best? Well, what are you doing to make that great sound like that? Are you blowing cold air or warm air? And just keep asking questions, because it's making them evaluate themselves and each other. And it says that's okay to make those observations and evaluations. If you're teaching your band class, and you have a soloist, let's say, hey, I really liked how you did that phrase. Can you do it a different way? Can you make the emphasis a different note or a different beat? Okay, that was great. Even more different. Can you do it another way, a third way? Can you do it a fourth way? They will do it. And then you can ask the whole group, which one do you like best? And it may not go the way you want, but you can always let them, give their input and then steer it your way later on. Another thing about the asking the questions, that's a great tool when you don't quite know the answer. And you don't have to reveal that you don't know the answer. You look like a genius because you're putting it on their lap. But there have been times where I'm like, man, I'm not exactly sure what's wrong with this. Let's see what the kids think. 9 times out of 10, they can give it, they can figure it out. But then, also uh, giving individuals time to just go down the line, and let's see, why is this so muddy? You play it. Okay, you play it. Okay, you play it. What's the difference, kids? What do y'all think? Well, their articulation is different. That's right. So which one did you like best? Well, I liked the second one that played. Okay, let's try to match that. So just asking the questions just opens the door for them to have more ownership, and it gets their creative juices flowing. I know that doesn't sound creative, but it gets them thinking, it gets them evaluating and observing, and they will get to doing that on their own a lot more quickly. So that's following up with what Steve said with the sixth graders and in the clarinet class, and asking questions. I just think that's a really good thing to do. I'm done.
Brian, I think I'm going to be quoting you on that phrase a whole bunch this spring. I love it.
What? Oh, the ask questions, more questions than you. Well, cool. It's not copyrighted.
If we use it enough, it'll come up in AI like Tim's quote earlier. And you'll get credit for it, Brian.
Yep, maybe so. Don't need it.
Nathan or Chase, Richard, Kyle, anybody would you want to share before we wrap up? Scott, did you want to jump in? I saw you unmute yourself there for a second.
Yeah, I'll make it quick, but I'll give you a quick. I'll be vulnerable and share a quick story. Early in my teaching career, I started at a very rural school, and it was not too far from Penn State here in Pennsylvania. And the director of bands who had just been hired at Penn State was Dennis Glocky, whose premier teacher was Bob Reynolds, and they're very, very close still to this day. And I didn't know what I didn't know, and those are the happy people, right? Those of us that don't know what we don't know. But I quickly figured out that I needed to know a lot if I was going to take some conducting lessons with Professor Glocky. And so started into our lessons, and and so much of it wasn't about looking good. It was all about rehearsal technique, and exactly what Steve was talking about, how to clean, how to get into it. And I would take videos in, and we would critique videos, and we'd talk a little bit about the craft of conducting, but mostly it was about rehearsal techniques and why do the clarinets sound the way they do and all that sort of thing. And probably about a year and a half into this, and I was still a pretty young teacher, maybe 25, 26 years old, he said, Scott, we have to have a talk. He said, you are wonderful at teaching about music, but they are not making music. And I had to literally, like, the tears were welling up. I respected this man more than, any other human at the time, maybe even more than my wife at the time. But anyhow, I was completely, aghast. And I said, okay, okay, all right. And he said they need to play their instruments better. Whatever it is that you need to do, me, the director, to take responsibility to figure out the right fingerings for clarinets and the, alternate horn, second, horn positions, and, for the F, F side of the horn, and all, you've got to take care of all of these things because you're it in this little rural school. You are music to these kids. And if you don't know and you can't figure that out, then they're never going to sound good. And what could be making, music making with them is, and so it was like a light bulb all at the same time, like a thunderstorm, that went off to me at that time. And I just became obsessed with reading articles, going through instrumentalist magazines, getting online, and this is back in the 90s, it wasn't like it is now where you could ask AI to tell you all the things. But I dug in as much as I possibly could to become a much better pedagogue of what it is that we do, and to and he helped me, and that was the other thing. Great mentors don't dish out that kind of advice and then walk away. They help you, and they stand by you, and they take you to Midwest, and they say go to this clinic, and they do all of those things. And it was a huge pivotal point for me still to this day, 30 years later or whatever it has been. But I think that those little aha moments about making great music are just critical. So, that it's not just being nice to the kids, all that culture stuff, absolutely. And I don't mean to sidetrack that. It's that, and, equally hand in hand. So anyhow, great evening, by the way, everybody. Love it.
Thank you so much, Scott. It just has to be. It has to be both. To think that one or the other. I can't say that enough. We say it often, but I don't know that enough folks are listening. We need more folks to hear that message. All right. Yeah, for sure. It has been a great night. Thanks everyone for sharing. Tim, do you want to wrap things up for us? I can't believe that it's 8:59 right now. It went by so fast.
This is good. This is one of those services in church where you walk out and go, boy, I think they're talking about me. And thank everybody for that. I will say this, and then we can argue about it sometime. The culture has to be there. Then so they open up and wrap their arms around the pedagogy. But you can't lead a horse to water, and those old adages are so true. And yes, that's what I love about those great programs again that I saw. There's a sense of cooperation over competition. Competition comes from the word competere, which means to bring together. It's a French word, means to bring together. So we bring all the people together. But does anybody on the screen know who the national pinochle champion is? Anybody know that? I know. Because we don't care. You ask a pinochle player, they'll tell you who it is. It's just fun playing pinochle or canasta or anything else. The way we do what we do is as important as what we do. And if we keep that stirring that pot like that, there's no end to what we can do. But if their butt's not in the seat, we can't teach them music. And they have to be in math and they have to be in English. They don't have to be in choir orchestra or band. So there better be a good tie-in with people like you all the time. You're the models for all of us. And thank you. And thank you for your loyalty and your support of Slam. And go bring somebody in. It'd be the best Christmas gift you can give them or a holiday gift you can give them. So that's my words of wisdom. And Cece, I love you. You know that. You must have had a good teacher.
Somewhere along the way. There might have been a good one in there somewhere. I hope that everyone finds time to pause in the next couple of weeks so that you can really reflect on all the things that you're grateful for as we celebrate Thanksgiving here in the US and have an opportunity, I hope, for you to spend time with the people that you love and care about and doing the things that you love and care about and that bring you great joy because you deserve it. You fill so many people's hearts and souls with great joy in the work that you do every single day. So make time for yourself, please. David, what do we have to look forward to in 2 weeks?
2 weeks, we have Mary Land joining us to talk about connections and the value of connections in music, as well as some ideas. And we'll be talking a little bit about our session at Midwest and some other things for those of you that. And she and Tim, you guys have Scott, you guys have a new resource coming out as well, I think, in that regard. So be some really great new information, I think. Mary was going to share with us in a few weeks.
So we'll see you soon. Be well, my friends. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.